let's explore autistic history and the Autism Wars. We're going to jump right back into 1993 here in the timeline from the autistic point of view from Jim Sinclair about the Autism Wars that erupt during this era between autistic-led organization ANI and parent-founded autism organizations. So we're jumping in here back into that history under the subhead Becoming a Group, One Person at a Time. In the spring of 1993, I received a phone call from Catherine, a woman who had just been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. After years of being labeled with an assortment of other disorders and disturbances, the clinician who diagnosed her had also given her contact information about ANI. That in itself was a very encouraging development. A newly diagnosed autistic person had immediately been referred to a network of autistic peers instead of being given the usual clinical information about all the things that were wrong with her. Having finally found out why, she had spent her entire life being, in her words, an alien. She was interested in meeting other autistic people. It happened that I was going to be traveling through St. Louis in the near future, so I suggested another meeting there. Catherine came to St. Louis and met with Kathy and me, as well as Kathy's fiancé Ray, Doyle, Rita, and their family, and she wrote of the experience. For me, this day will become an anniversary that I will celebrate with great joy. It marks the beginning of not being an alien. It will be a day of validation, a day to set aside and remember. That night, first night after arriving, in my journal I wrote that if nothing else of significance happened during this trip, that the one experience of being understood was worth all the time and expense of coming to St. Louis. I went to sleep feeling I belonged. My visit literally changed my life. I now know that there is a group of people that I can spend time with who do not expect me to be any certain way. Not many things surprise them, nor do many things offend them. They do not try to make me like them. They accept my interests and don't try to change them. I believe all persons with autism need the opportunity to become friends with other autistic people. Without this contact, we feel alien to this world. We feel lonely. Feeling like an alien is a slow death. It's sadness, self-hate. It's continuously striving to be someone we're not. And it's waking up each day and functioning in falsehood. And this is attributed to French in 1993. Catherine's experience mirrored that of Kathy and Donna and myself when we had first met and created Autistic Space. This experience was repeated with more people as ANI expanded. While we were not successful in reaching large numbers of autistic people via announcements in established autism publications, autistic people began to find us one by one. As an aside, I felt a great deal of personal pleasure and satisfaction in watching Catherine have the same kind of magical first contact experience that I had had the year before at a later gathering where we welcomed two additional autistic people for their autistic first contact. Catherine expressed to me that she was happy to be part of creating that experience for them. Facilitating these kinds of first contact and homecoming experiences for autistic people continues to be one of the most rewarding parts of my work as a coordinator of ANI. This sentiment has often been expressed by other ANI members about welcoming newcomers. Where is the famed autistic lack of empathy? Looking back at this period of ANI's history, I think it's best that it happened the way it did. A large influx of new members all at once might have made for a larger and perhaps more organized political force, but it probably would have precluded our coming together as we did, one person at a time, building the personal connections that allowed us to learn how to share our lives with each other. Organizations may be built upon goal-oriented or idea-oriented networks, but as ANI has developed, contrary to my own expectations, into a true community, I have come to understand that community is built upon intersecting networks of interpersonal relationships. Autistic people have characteristic difficulties with person-to-group relationships, but many of us are quite capable of establishing and maintaining person-to-person relationships. So this next section is titled Roots to Ingathering, and we're going to pick up there. During the early years, there were two main avenues by which new autistic members made contact with us: online, in the parent-oriented autism forum mentioned earlier, and at conferences. So the online parents forum, SOLA, S-O-L-A, Shelley, it's attributed to 2003, describes the way a typical online contact would begin. Ooh, how did people meet? As the only public forum about autism at that time, it was the first place that newly diagnosed HFAs, and now mind you, this is very old terminology, but that stands for high functioning autistics. We do not use those labels today. But historically speaking, we did back then. So adults and adolescents turned to for support. It was neat to watch this. Someone would appear and either tell about recently being diagnosed or just learning about autism and finding out how things fall into place when many of his or her difficulties and otherwise abnormal characteristics would be accounted for by autism. The person would get replies from other HFAs comparing notes, offering support. In many cases, the person would express a feeling of finally finding his own kind. Oh, it's a wonderful feeling when that happens. As if he or she was an alien who had been stranded on this planet and now has found other aliens who were from the same planet. Yeah. So any autistics out there have similar experiences, meeting other autistics for the first time and having that sense of belonging just hit you, or a synergy, or just being able to be so freely who you are. Yeah, I've had it. Yep. All right, so I'm going to pick back up here, discussing these meeting autistics, connecting for the first time in the 90s. And so thank you for learning a little bit more of autistic history with me, and see you next time.